Hey everyone, Yoshi Lan here. I'm still hopped up on cannabis that I did over uh 12 hours ago. I, I don't know why I'm still on the effect, but you know, I am somewhat inspired. So I'm going to be making a video. Today, I'm going to talk about spiritual bypassing because that is the last topic that just sort of came up at the end of the last videos for this channel. So let's talk about spiritual bypassing because let's face it, a lot of people like the spiritual bypass. I spiritually bypassed a lot even before I knew what spiritual bypassing was. I was like the king of spiritual bypassing. And now that I'm on this path of holism and spirituality and all this stuff, I'm just like seeing all these people who are doing the things that I used to do, and all these other types of spiritual bypassing that I just intuitively avoided or didn't pay much attention to. There's this huge group of spiritual bypassers in the spiritual community who just are all about this love and light shit. I'm just like, no. Mm-mm. When you just focus only on the love and light, you're ignoring a whole portion of reality, which is the darkness. You can't just have a day where there's just all light, because if it's just all light, then everything has no dimension to it. Everything is just light, everything is bright. And that's not how people are. That's not how reality is. Reality has both dark and light, and light comes from energy. Darkness is energy in balance. So there's a sort of balance and beautiful harmony and dynamism that gets lost when you ignore all of the dark stuff. Just because it's dark doesn't mean it's evil or demonic or heavy or all this other stuff. There's plenty of spiritual entities out there who are dark but are functioning within the the realm of what is beneficial. So there's different types of spirits. I'm not gonna get into that. I'm just gonna talk about the aspect of this whole love and light shit, because if you're enticed by that, it means you're being avoidant. A lot of spiritual people like to rag on the normal people who do spiritual bypassing by not looking at what has hurt them. But the spiritual people who tell those people tend to do the same shit. They're just using different language, different mindset, and all this other stuff, but they're two sides of the same coin. And it's very ironic when I hear a spiritual person say stuff to a person like, oh, you just gotta heal, you gotta sit with your emotions, and then the next day that spiritual person is like, oh my god, that person is so negative, I just like cannot with that person, it's just like we're not in alignment, like that person is just so full of darkness, and I am not about that dark. I will not have negativity within my life. And I'm just you're just like listening to them, and I'm like, well, that negativity is coming from somewhere, right? If it's in your life, it's in it because there's a part of you that has this stuff that you're not paying attention to, and that's why it's manifesting itself. Like, hey, take a look at me, I'm really dark and I'm also inside of you. But those people are just like, no, we aren't in alignment. Everything has to be about this proper alignment bullshit, or love and light. And I'm just like, the universe is a lot more complex and dense than love and light. So that's one type of spiritual bypassing, this whole ignorance of what has happened, neglect. Regular people will do stuff like, oh, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about negative stuff. I'm not a negative person. And there's oh, they'll also say stuff like, "Oh, that's in the past. You can't change the past. So what the fuck's the point in talking about it?" There's a point. There's a point it's happening in the first place. So there's definitely a point in talking about it. People get so used to the whole victim mindset and speaking from the perspective of a victim that if you are doing inner healing work, it can be easy to mistake yourself as presenting yourself as a victim or asking for pity. But that's not the point of doing inner healing work and sharing your experience with others. What you're doing is an act of self-love. So that is not spiritual bypassing. When you are talking and sharing your experience from your heart so that you can connect with somebody or help somebody understand what you're going through, that is an act of self-love, not spiritual bypassing. A spiritual bypassing form that people often do is when they vent about something. It's about the other person and they do blame shifting or gaslighting. That is spiritual bypassing. That is totally different. They're not owning their shit. They didn't contribute anything, or it seems like they're just so perfect, and you're given this impression that, wow, this other person is such a bitch. How could they do that to you? Oh my God. And then you start getting upset and emotional because of how this other person has reacted to that situation. But, realistically, is that really what happened? Mm-mm. Most of the time, it's not. And people become polarized because they're only receiving information that is in the upper or lower portion of the spectrum or the poles. There's this whole middle section that gets ignored. This middle section contains a lot of the information about the person, the stories, the events. So, if you don't see energy or can sense stuff or truth and know how to use your intuition, then it's easy to get lost in other people's bullshit. And when you get lost or wrapped up in other people's bullshit, then you also become a spiritual bypasser. You're not just enabling someone's spiritual bypassing, but you, in essence, are also participating in a spiritual bypass, because what does the next person do, right? They're like, oh my God, that shit happened to me too. That person was such a fucking bitch. Fuck that, and then it just becomes heavier and heavier. And if you have 3 or more people, then you run the risk of creating a black hole, because when you have 3 or more people, you can create a vortex very easily. So I don't participate in that type of talk anymore. And when I'm talking about stuff that's happened to me, I make sure that I speak from the I and also acknowledge what I have possibly contributed to the situation. Because even if you didn't contribute to the situation, you chose to be at that particular location, particular time, saying a particular thing. And that in itself is a contribution, because let's just be realistic about it. If you weren't there, then it wouldn't have happened to you. So that's another type of spiritual bypassing that people often do. Blame shifting. If you don't know what you're contributing to a situation for it to happen again and again and again and again, then you are spiritually bypassing. Because if you truly learned your lesson, then you'll have more power on how to shift these energies so that it doesn't happen again. And when it does happen again, it'll be residual karmic energies, which means the next time it happens, and it will happen again, isn't as severe. It could be very minor, or if it does happen, it's happening to somebody else. So it means it's one person removed, meaning it's a reminder of stuff that you have experienced and you've learned from it personally. So now you're meeting people who have experienced it so that you are given another angle, another perspective, so that you can also heal and also help the other person heal on another level. You're healing more because you're seeing more stuff. Oftentimes, you'll either be seeing more information from the same perspective or the completely opposite perspective. That's just how things work. A lot of the times, a person will be like, "Man, I used to do this to people, now it's happened to me," or they'll say stuff like, "Oh, I used to do stuff like that too." And this person that they're talking to, their friend, is talking about the person they're having a problem with. So that's one way that people can help heal and grow from one another, by not spiritual bypassing. Um, there are other forms of spiritual bypassing that I won't get involved too much in describing, because that's like more higher level stuff, and I don't really encourage people to go down that path anyway. So I'll describe what it is, so at least you know what it looks like. And a lot of the times, this deals with particular types of energy work, and um, these energy work that people do mess with karmic energies, or energies on a very deep soul level. That is not something that a person is supposed to mess with, and doing that type of energy work can create karmic cataclysms. And some of the some of the energy working techniques that I've investigated are really, really not good. Like, it can create a karmic cataclysm that convolutes energy back decades, dozens of lifetimes. Not just decades, dozens of lifetimes. That's how bad it can be. And where do you think these convoluted energies will go? It keeps flowing somewhere. So it could be later on in the person's life, or it could be in the person's next life. You don't really know. But you cannot just mess with karmic energies and soul level energies without having any type of consequences, because where there's an action, there will be a consequence. Not a reaction, but a consequence, because that's something that happens with an action. That's what the word consequence means. It means with sequence, right? Another version of this type of energy work goes to what those people refer to as the source code. And what they do is they go into the source code and they'll take a look at that part of the energy where that person's karmic lesson is, and then they'll just unplug it. So you can think of it about it like going through some computer hardware, and there's different parts of the motherboard where you'll look at it, and there's these little chips, right? Each of these chips in this particular area are all different lessons that you're supposed to be learning on your soul journey. And what that person's doing is just going, "Oh, that one, oh, that lesson really sucks. You don't need to go through that. Let's just have you experience abundance." So fear, okay, I'm gonna pull the fear out. I'm gonna pull the this out and that out. Hatred, oh yeah, let's not do hatred anymore. And you don't delete energies. The spiritual world works very similarly to reality, and people do not like to admit this. No matter how many spiritual people preach about how the the real world is a reflection of the spiritual stuff, they refuse to treat the spiritual world as if it works similarly to reality, and it does. When you pull stuff out in reality, for example, a closet or a motherboard, it doesn't just disappear. That thing is still there. It's just not connected to the motherboard. And likewise, when you pull stuff out from the source code, what does the person do with it? You know, does the person do anything with it? And if they don't do anything with it, then it's floating around doing who knows what. And I'll let you guess what happens to those energies the longer they get to do their own thing. But stuff does happen to it. You know, it's all energy. You can't just delete or erase things from source code. It doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. And there are certain things that you can change within your life because everybody has free will. So just because you decided on a soul level to experience it doesn't mean that by the time you get there, you might have learned enough to where you don't need to experience it anymore because you've already learned the lesson through somebody else or acquired wisdom from other sources. So that's the beneficial part about being open-minded and spiritual. You can learn from other people, and by doing that, you can experience it. If you are open and spiritual and have empathy, you can actually not experience certain things, and that is not spiritual bypassing. Because spiritual bypassing is the opposite. It's shortcutting or not going through your inner healing work. So when people refuse to accept their emotions, when people choose not to look at their own actions, their own words, then they're on the track of spiritual bypassing. And this topic is near and dear to my heart because a lot of stuff that's happened to me recently in the past year deals with spiritual bypassing. And my relationship with my former spiritual mentor went downhill super quickly because of spiritual bypassing. But, you know, I used to spiritual bypass a lot. So I ended up attracting a mentor who ended up being that reminder for me. And like, oh, yeah, there are a lot of things where I'm selectively applying these spiritual concepts and where I am doing spiritual bypassing. But when I was reminding my mentor of that, like, hey, this is what I noticed, this I'm applying it to myself, but how about for you? Because if we're mirrors as we are with everybody else who's meant to come into our lives and help understand us, then what is it reminding for you? Because not all this shit is on me. We're going through this stuff for a reason. So why am I the one that's just all fucked up and taking all the blame for this stuff? It's not my karmic energies that are creating all of this stuff. It's my former spiritual mentor's energies, her karmic energies. So when she didn't acknowledge that kind of stuff, then the split just happened very quickly um, within a week, pretty much. That's how quick it is. Um, spiritual manifestation happens very quickly at a higher level. So if the energies diverge, they diverge very quickly. There's separation involved. When you want to manifest something, it manifests much quicker. So in this case, the separation of our friendship happened very quickly because that's what happens if you start spiritual bypassing the things that you want to hold on to. I was one of those things she wanted to hold on to, will just split off, and there's nothing you can do to hold on to it because you will go down those cycles that take you through similar courses of actions that caused you to lose those things in the past. Let's see. So I think that covers the majority of what spiritual bypassing is. Focusing on the law of attraction is also a form of spiritual bypassing because the last thing I'll mention in this video, since it's starting to get long, is that a lot of people don't seem to realize or own up to the fact that they're constantly co-creating and manifesting reality. So when I see these ads on YouTube or spiritual ads on YouTube about meditation or the law of attraction and all this other stuff, I find it very amusing because they'll say stuff like, "Are you struggling to manifest what you desire?" Or there will be people, there's tons of people out there who are saying stuff like, "Oh my God, I'm having so much trouble manifesting." And the reality is, no. Mm-mm. You're not having trouble manifesting. What you're manifesting is trouble. So that's how it is. You don't struggle to manifest something, you're manifesting struggle. So if you continue to spiritually bypass, you're going to keep manifesting struggle. You're not going to get what you want because the universe isn't going to give you what you want because you're not ready for it. So if there's something for you to get from this video, it's whenever you stop wanting to learn, that's spiritual bypassing. Whenever you ignore your part and reminders for yourself of stuff that you might have done or that might have happened to you in the past, these are all lessons for you to learn also. That is spiritual bypassing, when you don't look at these things, when it's just no, I don't want to take a look at it, it's dark, it's negative, I don't want negativity in my life. Just because you don't look at it doesn't mean it's not going to happen, because it's inside of you. Processing is a way for you to retrieve the parts of yourself that have been dislodged over time, to replace the parts of yourself that is pulling in and attracting all of this, quote unquote negative stuff. So doing inner healing work and learning your lessons, all of this stuff serves to release the stuff that's inside of you. So you won't be manifesting struggle anymore, because the struggle, the energy that is pulling that struggle into your reality, is being released from your energetic field. All right. So if you have any questions about spiritual bypassing, or what could be potential spiritual bypassing, you could also talk about your experience of what you did spiritual bypassing stuff, because I can tell you one of the things I did was, rather when I was pissed off about something, rather than thinking about it, I would take a nap. And that's like a suppression nap. So I'd be asleep for like 3 hours, then I'd wake up even more fucked up, and then the energy of my day just gets like really fucked up. So yeah, that's one of the ways that I spiritually bypassed in the past. I don't recommend doing that, because if you're taking naps that are over 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours, and you're waking up worse than when you took the nap in the first place, then that means you're ignoring something that you're supposed to be experiencing. Because rather than sitting with my emotions and my anger and looking at what happened, I would just turn a blind eye to it and then take a nap. I'd check out of reality, because that was easier. So you can also think of spiritual bypassing as taking the easy way, going around. Like, instead of going straight through to learn your lesson, it's going, oh, actually this shit is not something I want to learn, so I'm just going to go around and around. The person doesn't realize they're going around the same cycle, and people just keep going through these multiple loops and circles and cycles, because they're not going into the core of each issue. So I'm going to leave it there for today. Namaskara. If you like this information or would like to support me in spreading spiritual knowledge and awareness, please subscribe to my channel and also engage the community. I really appreciate your time and your energy, and also for just inviting my energies into your life, because this is something that I really want to do so that I can help more people, and also not end up being stuck in a 9 to 5. um, I'll be doing more videos talking about the kind of stuff I do. So if you're interested in booking a session or whatever, or there's weird shit happening in your life and you want me to take a look at it, just send me a comment, or you can email me at yoshithesage@gmail.com. That's one place you can reach me, and also Yoshi the Sage on Instagram. All right. See you guys next time.